How's it going? Welcome to episode 2 of Fine Gibberish. It has been a month since we last spoke, and I suppose today they always say kind of speak about what you know. So there's going to be a bit of Metallica talk today, specifically their recent show in the Aviva Stadium in Dublin. I'm going to have a little walk through that and tell you what I thought about it. Before we get into that, I would just want to thank everyone who has reached out to me so far with kind words of encouragement, etc., since our first episode back in June, where we talked about we looked at origin stories and kind of I walked you through kind of where it all started for me. That was really it was great to kind of make a start somewhere, and I think one of the more interesting bits of feedback that I received was that my podcast style, I suppose, or my speaking style kind of made it feel very much like beer garden vibes, sitting around talking shite with your mates. So I mean that works for me. So if you want to go grab yourself a drink, who am I to say otherwise? You might as well while we have the good weather, which actually leads me to a very something I want to talk about, which is the weather. Anyone listening in from Dublin, Ireland, of course, will know that the weather over the last couple of weeks has been, and this is what makes Irish people uniquely special. It has been both equally fantastic, it's great, it's all that, and on the other hand, it's been, oh my god, it's just a horror show. It's been uncomfortably hot and warm, and it's been a dread. And as I was just saying yesterday on my other podcast, my kind of more professionally one, trying to record these things in this weather is a challenge, because ideally what you need is a cool, quiet space, and when the weather's like this, being inside, it's not cool, and so therefore what would you do? You'd open up a window, but then of course it's noisy and you just kind of go around in a vicious circle. And so mercifully, here we are. Today is the 21st of July, and the weather it seems to be cooling down a little bit, so kind of get my brain back in gear again and kind of talk about stuff. So so weather moaning. But I suppose, as much as we love to moan about the weather, the one thing that, when I think about good weather, is outdoor gigs, right? They just make everything better when a big gig or a festival has the good weather. It's perfect, right? It's, everyone's happy. It just infuses everything with good vibes and the whole lot. So of course, Metallica were playing in Dublin in kind of after I recorded the last or the first episode, and at that time I hadn't got tickets. I had no plans to go, but I've seen Metallica 100 million times as well. So I kind of had this attitude of, and I've seen a number of people out there on social media kind of, you can see the thought process, and I get it, because it was exactly my thought process as well, is when you don't have the tickets, and you don't have you don't have the plan to go, when you don't have the plan to go, it's very easy to kind of make up the story. Oh, they're shite these days. They're not like what they used to be. The kind of people who go, they're not real Metallica fans, etc., etc. It's easy to kind of create that narrative and the whole lot. But then, of course, as soon as you get the tickets, it's like, oh my god, yeah, it's like, forget that. They're awesome. They're amazing. And I was in that boat. And I think what happened was that, so they were playing on the Friday, and then they were playing on the Friday, there was a gap, and then they were playing on the Sunday. So I think the Friday one, I did make a concerted effort to kind of get on social media and kind of say, hey, if anyone is feeling generous or wants to take pity on me, Please let me know if you have a ticket. It didn't happen. The tickets seem to be, anyway, from my perspective, they seem to be, the they weren't there, or if they were there, they were like stupid crazy prices. Um, what do I mean by stupid crazy prices? I suppose me and my wife, we've kind of had this sort of pact, that there's almost no band on earth is worth more than €100 a ticket. So we've kind of had this €100 limit. Like, it would have to be, I don't know, David Bowie risen from the dead or something to kind of justify paying more than that. So yeah, the kind of tickets that were floating around were far in excess of that, and that could be a talking point all on its own some other day, which is the normalization that goes on with ticket prices these days, which how quickly we've moved into a space like where people, when tickets become available, how quickly we've moved into a space where people will say things like, "Oh, there's a ticket going there. It's 100. It's only 150. That's not bad. Like, that's not bad considering what some people are paying." And I have heard the stories. Some people paid kind of thousands, to be in the snake pit thing and whatever. But yeah, anyway, Friday tickets seemed to there weren't many tickets floating around, so I kind of I sat at home. I can't remember if I had a drink or not, but I remember being kind of glued to my phone, and as people's videos and stuff like that started kind of feeding through, it's you can almost watch these gigs now in real time, piecing it together, and also kind of like the keeping an eye on the set list, and you're kind of going on. And I must say, the set list on the Monday, or sorry, on the Friday, I have it here. Oh yeah, they opened up the Friday, and they opened up a Creeping Death, Harvest for Sorrow, Leper Messiah. Yeah, like, I mean, there's a trio to kind of put anyone to shame. Then into King Nothing. Shame. 72 Seasons. Okay, new stuff. Darkness Had a Son. More new stuff. Day That Never Comes. More new stuff. Cyanide, Orion. Okay, so now we're back into it. Nothing Else Matters. Sad But True. Battery. Awesome. Fuel. Seek and Destroy. And finished off with Master Puppets. Yeah, so that Friday one, it looked like it started off at a million miles an hour, kind of vicious, ferocious Metallica, circa 1989. Then it kind of looks like it goes, off into a bit of a wander, a bit of a break, and then it picks up again for the end. The end is quite tasty. I mean, finishing off Seek and Destroy and Master Puppets. So that set list on the Friday, I think that just really, set off the FOMO big time. You're kind of like, oh my God, that looked amazing. The weather was a bit rainy. That was another part of the kind of justification as well. When you don't have tickets, it's like, sure, it's raining. Rain ruins everything. I think it rained heavy on Pantera supporting that day, but it seemed to kind of improve. I think the weather held, but it was kind of a little bit kind of cloudy and overcast. But yeah, the FOMO kicked in. So then you're kind of like, Saturday is like, okay, I really got to get tickets for this show. This looks awesome. The other thing as well that I did from the other reason why I was particularly interested to try and get tickets for the Sunday, was because they're doing this whole Metallica doing this whole no repeat weekend. You could then figure out what the set list was more than likely going to be on the Sunday, because you can obviously then start crossing out, right, well, they've already played Creep and Death, they've already played Seek and Destroy, so we're not going to see that. But you start kind of going, right, what's not on there? Right, okay, so Enter Sandman's not on there, and Blackened's not on there, and you can kind of start going, okay, right, well, that's what we got to look forward to on the Sunday. So worked out a plan. Myself and my wife, we have a 4-year-old son that needed to be shepherded away somewhere so we could go and sort this out. And again, social media, trying to find the tickets, couldn't find them. There were people out there who contacted me afterwards, by the way, saying, going, well, where were you looking? There were loads of tickets, for a a very reasonable price, but I didn't see them. And the Sunday wasn't proven to be very much more successful than the Friday was. So the plan was that I would take myself into the action and kind of old school kind of, find the touts, find the people selling the tickets outside. Um, it was hot. It was really hot. I did 2 laps of the entire perimeter of the Aviva Stadium, trying to track him down. I was hearing nothing. Sorry, I was hearing nothing in terms of tickets. I was hearing something, and so much as the one thing I am glad that I did get to experience was Gojira were on doing their thing, and I could hear them clear as a bell, as if I was actually inside the stadium. I could hear them so well. And again, Gojira are a band I've seen multiple times, and they're serious. They're serious players. That them guys. So yeah, that was nice. It was kind of, that was, it was somewhat pleasant, kind of meandering around the suburbs of the Aviva Stadium. But anyway, blah 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 blah. Long story short, we're getting closer and closer to the gig. Eventually, kind of pure, what's the word? Serendipitous, is it? But anyway, a mate of mine, I'm standing on a corner. A mate of mine pulls out of a taxi, with his mates. They're heading to the gig. They're like, "Oh, hey Anto, what's the crack? You going?" Blah blah blah. And it's like, "Yeah, I haven't got a ticket yet." "Oh no way, such and such has a ticket here," and just so happens. And I was like, "Oh wow, how about €100?" And it was like, bang, here we go. So things started to fall into place pretty quickly, and we got ourselves inside the stadium. What I want to say then. So, I suppose for anyone who wasn't there, the people who were there will obviously don't need me to describe it too much, but I'll try to describe the visual of what it's like. So the Metallica obviously had this, they're playing in the round, so it's not just a stage at the end of the stadium, it's this, they're playing on, I heard somebody describing it as, it's just a big giant tire. It's just a big giant tire in the middle of the thing. It's like, okay, yeah, that's being a tiny bit unkind. But yeah, so they played this kind of in this sort of circular loopy thing, and it kind of rises, and there's parts of it that go up and down. There are two drum kits that are kind of hidden in the thing, and they rise up and down depending on where Lars wants to play at any particular moment. We'll talk about Lars in a while. And yeah, so they've got the surrounding this sort of circular thing, they've got these sort of giant pylons. I can't remember how many there was, maybe 6, I think. And on the top of these pylons were these sort of, again, there were screens, but they were like cylindrical, right? So the idea being is that from any vantage point in the stadium, you would always be able to look up and see a screen or which was doing a combination of showing obviously the band doing their thing, but also kind of interspersing that with some pretty nice visual graphics, stuff like that. So, and that all looked really, really cool as well. The and I suppose the other thing, that kind of, I think, was just, will probably live with me, my abiding memory, and I think a lot of people will be, is that there's an absolute I don't know, production engineer's dream was they couldn't dream up the lighting that was provided to them by the midsummer sun, absolutely bursting through the end of the Aviva Stadium, which just threw this sort of hazy light, all it like, and not to get overly romantic about all of this, but like, it really did this, it threw this sort of, the whole place into this sort of otherworldly kind of thing. It was something very unique. I don't think it could be ever recreated again. It was just really, really, really kind of a special thing. And so yeah, that was so that was it, right? So then on to the actual gig itself, right? So this Sunday night that I was there for, kick off with Whiplash, right? So Whiplash, into Whom the Bell Tolls, Ride the Lightning. Again, much like the first night, they're off at a million miles an hour, no gaps. It's just song, song, song. Like, and this is vintage. This is the Metallica that everyone holds in their mind. I think it's the energy, the ferocious energy that they just give off. It's amazing. Then of course, here we go. Until It Sleeps, Lux Eterna. Now, what I would say is Lux Eterna of the newer stuff, Lux Eterna, I think is definitely one of the better ones. They got to play it. They got to play some new stuff. Similarly, after that, then Screaming Suicide. Again, it's okay. It's got a bit of energy to it. Then we're into some classics again. So Fade to Black, Wherever I May Roam. I love that off the Black Album. Call of Cthulhu, Unforgiven. Yeah, The Unforgiven is a great song. And then, of course, we're into Whiskey in the Jar. Yeah, they did tease James did his whole thing of like, kind of, hey, there's one song we gotta play or we don't get out of this town alive. And I'm like, I'm not sure that's actually true. I think we'd happily let you leave if you didn't play this song. But anyway, whatever. They did tease. I'm pretty sure they teased "And Justice for All," um, as if like that was the song they were talking about, and of course it wasn't. And it was like me and a few other oldies around the place going, "Oh, they thought they were going to play Justice for All." But anyway, they didn't. They played Whiskey in the Jar. Of course, the place erupted. Atmosphere was electric for that. And then for me, that atmosphere then led straight into the next song, which was Blackened, which was just one of my all-time favorite Metallica songs, if not one of my favorite songs by anybody. It's brilliant. I kind of lost the plot a little bit to that. Then Moth into Flame, and then we finish with One, and then we finish with Enter Sandman. So yeah, of course, the other thing that went on in the middle of all of this thing, and it was and it's a nice idea, and I get why they're doing it, but this thing that Rob Trujillo and Kirk Hammett are doing, where they let James and Lars off the stage for a while, and they're going to now perform some sort of local tune, and we were subjected to them boys performing Dirty Old Town. Okay, so it wouldn't be that bad, but my God, Rob Trujillo cannot sing for shit, right? He is an atrocious singer. He looks like he's good fun. Look, it seems like a really, really nice fella and all that, but yeah, it was one of the worst versions of that song, and it came across as kitsch and came across as, I don't know, cringy. I could have lived without hearing that. Let's just put it that way. What else do I want to say? I want to say about Whiskey in the Jar, right? So the thing about Whiskey in the Jar, and I remember years ago one of their shows, and I'm pretty sure it was like the RDS, and they put posters up around town. Sorry, when they played in the RDS, it was around about the time when that song was kind of, they had just done it, right? So it was fresh in everyone's mind. And then they were playing in the RDS, and they stuck up these posters around Dublin as advertising for concerts, because that's the way we used to do it. And the posters I think said something like, "The boys are back in town." And it was clearly Metallica. It was done with Metallica iconography, etc., etc. And I remember thinking, going, "Oh, this is going to be great. What a great idea." They've got everyone in this sort of like, Whiskey in the Jar. Metallica love Tin Lizzy. Great. Who doesn't? They're going to actually play The Boys Are Back in Town. What a great idea. Of course, it didn't happen, and it's never happened. And every time like when they did it at Slane, they've done it. They've done it a bunch of times. 4 or 5 times now. They've come to Dublin, Ireland. And they've done this, and I always feel like it's such a shame that they don't do Boys Are Back in Town or some other Tin Lizzy thing. If you want, like, in their attempt to try and find something special, in their attempt to be kind of like, "Hey Ireland, you mean so much to us, Metallica family, blah blah blah." Why not do something truly unique? Why not actually perform a song that you absolutely won't do anywhere else in the world? And I think it would kick ass as well. Because as much as I love Tin Lizzy and I love that song, I think Tin Lizzy do it like infinitely better than Metallica do. So anyway, but anyway, that's just kind of nitpicking in the extreme. Um, the other thing I want to talk about is the beach balls. This is another thing I could have lived without. I'm starting to make it sound like this gig was terrible. It wasn't. Overall, it was awesome. It was definitely one of the better times I've seen Metallica. But there were definitely moments like I was kind of like, okay, what's this now? Um, but the beach balls. Now I could be wrong. If anyone knows, please correct me. And let me know. But I suspect the origin of these bloody beach balls was going back a few years. Metallica played Glastonbury, and I wasn't at that now, but I remember watching it on the telly. And for anyone who doesn't know, Glastonbury is this festival in England, and it's famous for for having flags, right? It's the audience just seems to bring an enormous amount of flags. It must be a nightmare trying to see anything, but however, um, and therefore, and when Metallica played it, out came these black, oversized beach balls, and I think that was the start. And then it just kind of carried on, and I think Metallica have been throwing out beach balls, um, ever since. Now, I know I don't want to be old man shouts at cloud here, right? But I think if we had a time machine and we could go back and say to James Hetfield around 1989 and going, hey, let me tell you about how Metallica is going to look in about 30 odd years from now, um, and you describe to him that you'll eventually be a band plays the big stadiums, and out will come the beach balls. He may have, I don't know, crushed his beer can right on your head right there and then, and like, but look, it is what it is. We are where we are, particularly James, but Metallica overall are not the angry band and that they were. The part of their, I think part of why we all fell in love with Metallica was they were angry, right? And they played angry music, and they delivered it with a level of ferociousness. And like, I mean, just anyone go have a look at like how James delivered Harvester of Sorrow in Moscow, Monsters of Moscow in 1991, I think it was. Like he looked like he was like actively trying to hurt a million people in front of him. He does not play that way anymore. Now it's very like it's all smiles, and it's all, hey, we love you and you love us and you make us feel so welcome and all this. This is a million miles away from where he used to be like, fuck you, I don't care, it's different. And hence we have beach balls now, right? So, and it's cringy. So they threw the beach balls out, these yellow and black oversized beach balls, and they got thrown around the place. There was killings for them, because nothing says I love Metallica more than look at this stabbed piece of plastic that I managed to rip off some kid and bring it home. And they go for crazy money. Like, I've seen them. They're 200, 300 quid for it's a beach ball, people. I mean, I've even thought to myself, going like, how hard would it be? I'm sure, like in this day and age of Temu and all the rest of it, it wouldn't be that hard to get onto someone and say, can you just make me a beach ball? Can you just make me a really large beach ball and make it yellow and black and put this Metallica M on it, and a 72. That was the branding, wasn't it? M72. And who'd ever know the difference? But anyway, maybe that's maybe there's people listening to this now going, that is a fantastic idea, Brady. I'm going off to do that right away. You're welcome. I 20% is my cut on that one, just so we all know. So yeah, so the beach balls, I could live without the beach balls for sure. Um, the other thing as well that caught me, or that kind of threw me as well, is like, again, as someone who's kind of grown up, listening to Metallica and kind of living with them and watching them, a million times. I was quite surprised that when we got to the end and it was they played one, that there wasn't the synchronized pyrotechnics that we usually get on the when he goes, landmine has taken my. Usually there's the landmine, and it wasn't there. And I'm sure it wasn't. There was me. I know I did it, and there was like probably a bunch of other people around the people who were left making the explosion in anticipation for it, and it wasn't there. And it was like, oh my god. So that's what this song sounds like without that happening. So that was that, and that happened again. Then the next song, Enter Sandman, the closing song. Again, Enter Sandman is like that has a life of its own now at this stage. But similarly, when we got to there's usually a bit where it kind of builds up again, and you kind of do 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 do, and then usually there's like a bunch of fireworks or something that goes off, and again they didn't go off this time, and I was like, oh right, somebody didn't pay the pyro bill this week or something, but these are all tiny little gripes. What else do I want to talk about? The posters. Yes. So I did particularly like the posters. I didn't get one yet. I'm sure I would. There's plenty of time to acquire them. What I really liked about the posters is, first of all, they used a local artist. I don't know him personally. I've seen his name. I think his name's Cassidy. Metallica reached out. They do this everywhere they go. It seems like when they played in Cardiff, they found a local artist there, and so, which I think is a really really great. That I like that about. I like that they do that, and it really worked out. They made. So there was one poster, I think, that covered the 2 nights, the overall thing, which was this really cool sort of statue holding an Irish flag thing, like all very dark, all very Metallica. It worked beautifully. And then for each show, each night got its own specific poster. So there was the what's his name, Jim Fitzpatrick, Tin Lizzy, Jailbreak inspired poster for the first night, which looked really really cool. And then there was the second one, which was the Molly Malone thing, which was a tiny. I didn't think it was as good as the Thin Lizzy one, but what I did like about the second night poster was there was there was all these little hidden Easter egg elements to that poster, where they had little homages there to Bruxelles Bar was in there, Fibbers was in there. I think McGonagall's might have even gotten him. I can't remember now, but I just remember thinking, going, this is a cool poster, and I will find it eventually. And I suppose I there's part of me just to talk about the poster thing as well, and some of the merch. Like, as someone who, like, I'm a businessman, I understand business, I understand how these things work, I understand like the economics of it as well. I get this idea of, like, if you make something scarce or hard to find, that that makes everyone go crazy and go, oh my god, and they climb all over each other to go to get them. But on the other hand, there's also an element of, like, if like, so if I was in Metallica and there was whatever over across the 2 nights, there was probably the guts of 100,000 people watched the show. I would want, if somebody could tell me, going, you could send 100,000 people away with a poster, if not 2 or 3 posters, and those posters are going to now adorn their homes and the whole lot. I would love that idea much more than, okay, well, because we held, because we had a strategy, and we kept it was exclusive and it was hard to get, therefore people went nuts for this, and we made more money. I get the element of we made more money, but like, Metallica don't need the money. And again, I'm sure, of course, Metallica as 4 individuals in the band probably are not anywhere near these discussions. Of course, it's the people behind Metallica, or a company at this stage. Like, they operate on a different level altogether. But yeah, it's the merchandise stuff is a bit crazy these days. But when all said and done, the posters were cool. Well done, Boulabus. Boulabus on delivering some really cool posters. I've got the one from Slane, actually, which is yet to go up on my wall. I just haven't gotten around to putting it in a frame yet, but the sleigh one was cool. That was the Four Horsemen one. Anyway, I'm wandering off. Off the topic here. Poster cool. Da, 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 da. So yeah, so that was it. All in all, that was the gig. I really, 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 really enjoyed it. Um, I can't even remember how many times I've seen Metallica at this stage, but that's definitely up there with the best of them. Was it the best? I, for me personally, I think it would. No, the best I think I've ever seen Metallica was probably uh 99. I seen them a bunch of times in '99. They seem to play everywhere in '99. So they played Dublin for sure with Monster Magnet in the Point Depot, and that was really cool. But they also then played Milton Keynes, and they played Dynamo as well. They headlined Dynamo that year too, and it was pretty much the same set everywhere they went. And the reason why that '99 tour stood out for me was that was part of that whole kind of, they were opening up with Bread Fan, the cover of Budgie's Bread Fan, and like it's just one of the best openers ever. And then I just remember that they rolled on like I think uh Bread Fan rolled into Creeping Dead, and it was just a blur. It was just, and it was, oh yeah, that's another thing to kind of mention as well. That's the thing that kind of was very noticeable to me, looking at what went on the Friday night and then seeing it for myself then on the Sunday night, and it's this element of like, okay, so Metallica come out, they stand on the stage for 3 songs, and it's vintage, right? It's vintage. They're there, they play, songs over, kind of rolls into the next thing, and then rolls into the next thing. This was how Metallica built a ferocious live, uh, well, what am I trying to say? Reputation, live reputation was on this, but they came out and they just, for an hour, 2 hours, whatever it was just pummeling the audience to death. Now it's reduced down to the opening 3 songs, at which point then they all disappear off the stage. Each band member has their own little sort of recovery area, like where they go down, and James goes and gets himself a cigar and all, and more power to him, right? Whatever. But for the rest of the show, it turned into this, like, okay, here's a song. There'd be this, back to the production thing, right? So there'd be this, the monitors, these cylindrical video displays. Each show or each song was now an event in itself. Once the opening of the show was over with, every song from that moment on now was an event in itself. It's okay, so here's the kind of the moody backing tape for Wherever I May Roam. Here comes some cool things. The 4 band members then pop up on stage. A drum kit rises up for Lars. They do it, they perform it, and when it's over, then they're gone again. And then we're into the next thing. It's like, it kind of starts to feel less and less like a gig, and something approaching more like a kind of here's a selection, a curated selection of Metallica performances, and that's why I would not put this particular performance at the top of my list, and would put it like back in the day when there wasn't any of that sort of nonsense. It was like, okay, 99, they'd come out of the blocks, they hit everyone a million miles an hour, and it goes on. Like they used to kind of just relentlessly pummel people into the ground for like half an hour before James would even say anything, before he'd even say anything to the audience. And then usually it would be, something along the lines of him kind of mocking them, going, you're not getting tired now, are you? Or something like that. So there's that. But of course, I'm sure people are probably screaming at me, but Brady, they're old men, they can't do that, and whatever. Yeah, I get it, and but one thing I did laugh at as well was at the end of the gig, there was and I love that this will never ever go away. They each did their little, once they were each finished throwing out buckets and buckets of Plex and stuff like that, they each had their little speech, right? So I think, from memory, James went first, and it was a kind of, hey, we, usual stuff. It writes itself, you guys are awesome, and every time we come here, we love you guys, blah, 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 blah. Kirk had to go. Rob Trillo, he said his bit, and of course Lars has to go last because Lars is the most important person in the band, and it's his band, and doesn't everyone just know it? Um, but I did enjoy that when it came his turn, and he starts going, "Hey Dublin," and you could hear the audible groan. And it's not the first time. Every Metallica show I've ever been at in Dublin, whenever Lars starts doing what he does, there's that sort of, you can hear the eye rolls all around the stadium where everyone's like, "Oh, here we go, he's going to say something." Uh, and he was going on about, yeah, and he wasn't the worst this time. I think he did make a mistake. I think he was going on about, how he was trying to basically say that the first time they ever came here in Dublin was in a place called the Top Hat in Dunleary, which is incorrect. The first time they ever came here was actually the SFX in '86. So slapping the wrist there, Lars. You didn't get your shit right. But yeah. For anyone who knows me knows this already, I am not a Lars Ulrich fan. Um, not to take away from his musicianship, he is clearly an incredible drummer, and he's part of metal history. Of course, he is, but I find him, as a lot of people do, incredibly irritating. His ego, uh, he just and I've heard, like, I've listened to other people's podcasts who've actually met him, and they kind of describe that he's not quite the character that people think he is that he actually comes across as actually very humble and he's very down to earth, etc., etc. And that might be true. That might be true, but there's just something in him when he gets in front of a microphone in front of people. He comes across like a bit of a twat, and always has done, and he kind of, you know but anyway, it is what it is. He's 100 million years old now, so don't ever change Lars. I think the Lars, the slagging and the kind of the slagging of Lars is kind of almost part of the is part of the charm now at this stage, isn't it? So yeah. So anyway, so that was Metallica in Dublin. That's what I got up to. That's the only thing I got up to really. Because I'm old and I'm a dad now these days, so I don't really get to get out too much these days. But I figured it was worth talking about. Um, so yeah, and that was it. It was over. We rolled outside, we all squeezed onto a train back to town, found my way back to Fibbers. Fibbers was mental. Oh my god, it was mental. And for anyone who knows Fibbers, there's that kind of bit, there's that section that's in front of the stage as you try to get outside to the beer garden. Like, I've never seen it so wedged in my, like, it was dangerous, right? It was just because you had a whole bunch of people trying to push one direction and a whole bunch of people trying to push in completely the opposite direction, and it was just like, no, computer says no. And it with the heat, the sweat, the smell, oh my god, it was horrible. But mercifully I did manage to find a bit of room where I could drink a pint, and it was great. Got to bump into a few heads I haven't seen in a while, and that's what it's all about, right? It's these gigs are kind of metal community events, and we all had a ball. I woke up the next day, not too bad, I think. Which was, I have to be thankful for that, and that was it. And then since we've last spoken, of course, then I've had to record a bunch of business podcasts as well. So if you want to hear the more professional version of me, please go and tune in over there. So I'm going to wrap it up because we're at nearly 40 minutes now. So hopefully that's been enough beer garden talk to get you through at least one, if not two drinks. Yeah, and I also did get a bit of feedback as well that one of these a month is probably too big of a gap. So I'll do my best. I'll try to get back in front of the microphone a bit sooner the next time and talk a bit more rubbish about something. And yeah, so But if anyone has any comments, feedback, or suggestions, or anything you want, do please let me know. Hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't get to go to see Metallica this time, hopefully this helped. Yeah, or maybe it didn't. Maybe it made it all worse. Maybe you're crying into your beer right now, going, "Oh, I should have done it." um, I don't know. I don't know. If you need a hug, let me know. I'm good for hugs too. Um, I'll leave it there. Thank you for listening as always, and I will catch you again soon. Take care.